My stepsisters stole my fiancé by eloping with him right before the wedding. Now they are panicking and coming back to beg me after I did this to them. Fast forward to when we were 23 and we decided we were so in love that we should get married. So we got engaged and everything seemed perfect for a while. But then just 2 weeks before our big wedding day, something straight out of a movie happened. My fiancé Tom, who was 27, and my stepsister Sarah, who's a year younger than him, suddenly decided they were in love with each other. Instead, they ran off together just like that, leaving me a note in the note. Tom told me he had been secretly seeing Sarah for a while, and that they realized they were the ones who were truly meant to be together, not him and me. He said it felt wrong to go through with our wedding when his heart belonged to someone else, and thought it was for the best because this way nobody would end up unhappy or living a lie. After they took off, I didn't hear from them again for a really long time. Tom's parents, feeling super sorry about everything, paid for all the wedding expenses, so I wouldn't have to spend a dime, which was nice of them, but that was pretty much the last time I had any contact with his side of the family. My family, on the other hand, was beyond upset. My parents were furious and my stepdad was so angry. He even thought about hiring a detective to find Tom and Sarah and bring them back to explain themselves. It was a total mess and definitely not how I thought things would turn out. So, since I was super young, like around 5 years old, the man I call my dad is actually my stepdad. But here's the deal. He's the only dad I've ever known or needed. My real dad left us when I was just a baby, and my mom never saw him again after that. He even signed some papers saying he didn't want to be part of my life. My mom and he were never married. Then when I was about 7 years old, my mom married my stepdad, and that's who I've been calling dad ever since. Now, Sarah and we used to go to the same school. That's how our parents met. But Sarah, she didn't like me. Not one bit. She was mean to me. Really mean. Like a bully in movies. She had her group of friends and they would always pick on me both at school and at home. It was like there was no break from her meanness. I told my parents about it hoping they could make it stop. They did try to talk to her and tell her off, but Sarah didn't care. She wasn't afraid of them at all. So she just kept on bullying me. School was tough because of her and her friends making it feel like a never-ending nightmare, just like how I never had my real dad around. Sarah's situation was pretty tough from the start. Her own mom passed away when she was really young, like just 2 years old. It happened suddenly one night because of a health issue called a heart attack. So when my mom tried to step in and tell Sarah off for being mean or doing something wrong, Sarah would snap back saying my mom had no right to tell her what to do since she wasn't her real mom. My dad gave it a shot too, trying to get Sarah to stop being so mean to me. They tried all sorts of things, from getting really strict with her to sitting down and trying to talk things out calmly, but Sarah didn't care. Nothing they said or did made any difference to her. They even threatened to send her away somewhere if she didn't stop. But Sarah just threw those threats right back in their faces, knowing they wouldn't really do it. As time went on, Sarah didn't get any better. By the time we were in high school, she was really out of control. She started smoking, hanging out with a really rough crowd, and sneaking out to drink. And then one night she got caught. She and her friends were busted for breaking into someone's house after they had been drinking. That was the last straw for our parents. They realized Sarah needed serious help, so they decided to send her away to a place that could hopefully set her straight. After a lot of arguing and pleading, Sarah finally agreed to go to a special place for teenagers who were having a really tough time and were acting out like a rehab center for troubled teens. She wasn't happy about it, but my dad was super serious. He told her that if she wanted to stay with us and be part of our family, she needed to get her act together. He was worried because her actions were not just hurting us, but could also be dangerous for others around her. So, during our junior year of high school, Sarah left to get the help she needed. She didn't come back home until after we had finished high school. She stayed with her uncle and went to a school close to the rehab center. I didn't really keep in touch with her during this time. I mean, she was the person who made my life miserable. So why would I want to know how she was doing? My parents would go see her every weekend and always asked if I wanted to join them, but I was like, no way. While she was gone, her friends at school stopped bothering me. It was like I didn't even exist to them anymore, which was actually pretty nice because it meant no more bullying. My high school years got a lot better from that point on. When Sarah came back, she had finished her schooling and seemed to have changed. The first thing she did was apologize to me for all the mean stuff she had done. She seemed much calmer, and I could tell she was trying to be a better person, So I decided to forgive her. As high school was winding down, and we were getting ready for college, things between me and Sarah started to shift a bit. We were about to head off to different colleges, which meant we'd be moving out and starting new chapters of our lives. When we did come back home for holidays, I noticed Sarah was acting differently towards me. She wasn't exactly friendly, but she wasn't mean anymore either. Instead of bothering me all the time, she just sort of ignored me, which honestly I was totally okay with. Being ignored was way better than being bullied. Our parents saw the change too, but they didn't push us to be super close or act like sisters given everything that had happened. Them seeing us not fighting was probably a relief. Then I started dating Tom. After we had been together for a year, I decided it was time he met my family, so I brought him home for Christmas. To my surprise, everyone got along great, even Sarah. She actually joined in on the conversation, which was something new. She seemed to get along with Tom pretty well, which was a bit of a surprise. After I started dating Tom, Sarah suddenly seemed interested in being more friendly with me. She would reach out to talk, which was something she never really did before. It was like she was trying to make up for the past in her own way. I was really confused by how Sarah was acting all nice out of the blue, and I couldn't shake off this little worry that maybe she liked Tom, my boyfriend. So one day, I just straight up asked her if she was trying to be friends with me because of Tom. She laughed it off and said that wasn't it at all. The real reason she started changing her attitude towards me was something Tom said during our first dinner together. He talked about how much he loved his brothers and sisters, and that got Sarah thinking. She realized she had been pretty awful to me for a long time, especially after she came back from the rehab place. Tom's words made her want to fix things between us, not because she had a crush on him, but because she saw how important family was. Sarah admitted she used to blame me for her having to go to that rehab center for troubled teens, but after a while she understood that it wasn't my fault. She was the one who messed up. She decided it was time to stop treating me badly and try to really be a part of our family. So Tom kind of helped her see things differently, even if he didn't know it. I was really confused by how Sarah started acting nicer and wanting to be friends all of a sudden. And part of me wondered if it was because she liked Tom. So I just asked her straight up if she was being friendly because of him. She laughed it off and said no. She explained that hearing Tom talk about how close he was with his siblings made her think about our own relationship. She realized she wanted to fix things between us, not because of Tom himself, but because he made her see how important family relationships are. Sarah admitted she used to blame me for her being sent to that rehab place for troubled teens. And it took her a while to understand that it was her own actions that got her there, not me. She said she wanted to make things right with me to really be part of the family. And that meant apologizing sincerely and trying to improve our relationship. Her words really got to me, and I decided to forgive her and try to be friends. That decision felt right for a long time. Sarah even got involved in planning my wedding, and our relationship seemed to be getting better. We weren't super close, but things were definitely better than before. We made a point to catch up regularly, and by the time Tom and I got engaged, Sarah and I were on pretty good terms. I had no reason to suspect anything weird between her and Tom. They both acted totally normal around each other at family gatherings, and even after our engagement, nothing seemed off. It was like everything was finally falling into place. I was totally caught off guard by everything. I never once suspected that Tom could like Sarah. He was really good at pretending he was all about me. And Sarah was just as good at acting like my friend. It wasn't until they ran off together that I realized what was actually going on. After they left, my parents were super angry and wanted to go after them, but I just didn't have the energy for more drama. I was already feeling super low and embarrassed by the whole situation. They'd made me look like a fool, disappearing just 2 weeks before what was supposed to be the happiest day of my life. So I asked my parents to just let it be because I needed to focus on healing, not chasing after them. I tried to keep busy with work and slept a lot, basically doing anything I could to not think about how hurt I was, but just when I thought things couldn't get any worse, I got a postcard from Sarah from New York. To make things even more painful, she included photos of her and Tom looking really happy together. It was like another blow to my already broken heart. So after everything went down, Sarah sent me a postcard from New York. It seemed like she was trying to say sorry for shocking me right before the wedding, but it was pretty clear she wasn't actually sorry. Instead, it felt like she was just trying to make me even more upset. That's when it hit me. She had never really gotten over being sent away years ago. She still blamed me for it and never actually wanted to be my friend. She was just pretending, using me to get closer to Tom. Looking back, it feels like a really twisted plan. Just a few days after getting that postcard, I was a total wreck. I couldn't sleep and I kept going over everything in my mind. It was just too much. Going through this was super hard. I ended up needing therapy for months to work through the hurt and the trust issues that came from this betrayal and the postcards. They didn't stop coming. Sarah kept sending them, showing off her life with Tom, but I never gave in to the drama or responded. Eventually, about 8 months later, she stopped sending them. Our parents were really upset about it and naturally cut all ties with her after that. They didn't even try to reach out to her after the first postcard died. And that was a huge loss for Sarah because she was all set to inherit her dad's company. She was a marketing major, and that was part of the reason why she had chosen that route for herself, because she wanted to join her father. But of course, after what she had pulled off, our father cut all ties with her and told me I could join him instead because he felt like he had to make up for everything in a major way. But I didn't have a marketing degree. I was actually an art major, and that pretty much had nothing to do with business, so I needed to learn the ropes first. My father said that it was not a problem because he was willing to teach me everything he knew so that I could eventually take over the company instead of Sarah. So I agreed and started to work with him so I could learn how to run the company and he could retire and hand over the reins to me. After a while, I worked really hard for a couple of years, and last year I was finally promoted and my father retired. It was an amazing feeling because I had started from scratch and had to learn everything, but now everything was smooth sailing under me and has been for some time. Thanks to me, my parents can now spend more time together without worrying about the business because I'm taking care of it. It's been this way for quite a while, and I pretty much stopped thinking about Tom after I started working for my father because that took up all my time. That, along with therapy, helped me move on, and I would say now I've completely moved on and don't think about them or what they did. I never thought that they would ever reach out to me again, let alone ask for my help, because it would take a lot of guts, an utter lack of functioning brain cells to ask me to help them out after they screwed me over and made a fool out of me, and then went on to rub it in my face as well. But I guess that Sarah and Tom really do lack brains now because they did reach out to me a few days back. I was at home because it was the weekend, and around dinner time I heard someone frantically ringing my doorbell. I thought it was the package I had ordered, so I didn't think much of it when I opened the door. I received the biggest surprise of my life when, instead of a delivery guy, I found Sarah standing outside my house looking really worried. I didn't know what to say, so I just silently waited for her to speak. While looking at her, I realized that she was definitely here to ask for help because she was looking destitute and her appearance gave her away. Even as a kid, Sarah always used to dress well, but when I saw her, she was dressed in old clothes that were all faded and had obviously been purchased a really long time ago. Her jeans were way too short, and she herself looked like she hadn't been eating. I had already made up my mind that whatever she was about to ask me, the answer was going to be no. So when she said that she needed me to help her out because she and Tom had been struggling for a really long time ever since he lost his job a few months ago, I wasn't surprised he had started drinking instead of looking for a new job. And even though she had been trying to find a job for herself, she couldn't because she had quit everything to stay at home and do all the household work when she first moved away with Tom. And because of that, she hadn't been working in the recent past, and the gap in her resume made her a weaker contender for all the jobs she had been applying to. She said that she had heard from a couple of relatives that our father had retired and had handed over the company to me, so now she was here to ask me if I would be willing to hire Tom and give him something to do. Sarah told me that she had come all the way here only to ask me for help and said that she was sorry for whatever she did in the past, but now she was counting on me to bail her out. She told me that she hadn't even approached our parents yet and had come straight to my house to ask for help because she knew that I had a kind heart, and she felt awfully guilty about betraying me in the past. But she was sure that I wouldn't turn her away now that she needed my help. Her entitlement was so ridiculous that I ended up laughing in her face and told her to apply somewhere else because I don't hire cheaters. Then I shut the door in her face and walked back into the living room preparing to call the cops if she didn't get off my property soon. Thankfully, she did go away that day, but she hasn't left me alone yet. After her visit, the first thing I did was call our parents and tell them about it. They told me that they had heard from a couple of their neighbors that Sarah was back in town without Tom, but they hadn't believed it. And we live in a relatively small town, so everybody knows everybody. We were quickly able to find out that Sarah had been here for about 2 weeks before she finally paid me a visit and had been living with one of her old friends from high school. It was probably her high school friend who had told her where I was living and also about the fact that I had inherited the company that was rightfully supposed to be hers. And now she was really milking that. A couple of days after she visited me, she decided to go meet our parents to tell them how heartless I was being. She had expected them to be on her side now that she had the upper hand on who was suffering more. But she couldn't have been more mistaken because my father told her that the company was now mine to run, and I could make whatever decisions I deemed fit. He didn't have any say in it anymore because he wasn't going to micromanage me. And my mother reminded her that she was the one who had screwed me over by running away with my fiancé after pretending to be my friend for years, and now she completely deserved whatever was coming to her. She had lost the right to ask any of us for help, especially me after she had been sending me postcards to torment me. She tried to defend herself by saying that it was all in the past and she's a different person now, but my parents told her that she had to leave because they wanted nothing to do with her anymore. That led to her throwing a tantrum at their house and claiming that they had always favored me over her and treated me like the golden child. She told my father that in spite of being his own flesh and blood, he had never treated her like that and acted as if I was his only daughter and she was worth nothing to him. When he told her that he had made more allowances for her behavior in the past than any other parent in the world would, she said that it still didn't matter. I had everything that she was supposed to have, including the company that I was showing off about. She said that it wasn't even her fault that Tom had fallen for her and wanted to spend his life with her instead of me, but for some reason she was the one being punished for it. She claimed that the postcards she had sent were meant to be a genuine apology, and she wasn't even trying to torment me. And honestly, I haven't been able to stop thinking about that since my father told me what she said. In a way, it's true that she was supposed to inherit this company and be in my place, but she really lost it because of her own actions. I had no part to play in that. I never told my father to cut her out of his life and hand over the company to me. He did it of his own volition, and it feels kind of unfair for her to blame me for this. Also, the thing that she said about me being the golden child is absolutely not true, but I can see why she would feel that way, because in her head she was the one who was sent away because I complained about her and her incessant bullying. A parent choosing to send a child away is not a disciplinary timeout. It is a seismic shift that ripples through every room of a house. I know it devastated my father. It rewired holidays, rewrote dinner table conversations, and left a hollowness in places where laughter used to land. But I will not pretend it was his fault or mine. He made the only decision he believed could interrupt a dangerous trajectory. Rehab. Structure. Distance. He chose disruption over denial because denial had already failed us more times than I can count. Without intervention, Sarah was not flirting with trouble. She was sprinting toward it. And as for those postcards that came afterward, the ones with pretty skylines and neat handwriting they never read like repentance. They read like a revision. She was not asking for forgiveness. She was trying to edit the record and label it an apology. None of that stops me from feeling something for her. Compassion is stubborn like that. Tom, yes, the same. Tom, who once stood beside me in a jewelry store while I chose a ring I never got to wear, has proven unreliable in ways that cost real money and even more trust. Sarah is now the one covering his shortfalls, buffering his missed deadlines, and explaining his silences to landlords and friends. She showed up at my door to ask for help. I can imagine what that took. Pride does not go quietly. It has to be swallowed in gulps. I regret how sharp I was in that moment. I have stability. She does not. When you place those two truths side by side, a flicker of sympathy is not weakness. It is evidence that I have not let bitterness turn me unrecognizable. Still, compassion is not capitulation. I am not a venture fund for avoidable crises, and I am not going to hire my way into a lawsuit. It has been years. I am done carrying a grudge that burns me to keep someone else warm, but I am also done mistaking mercy for access. Boundaries are how we keep history from repeating itself with a louder soundtrack. So here is the policy stated cleanly and without malice. No job, no loans, no temporary cash that turns permanent. Civility, yes. Clarity, absolutely. But not $1, and not one position that I would not offer a stranger with the same record. Part of why this feels tangled is the family business. It was at one point intended for Sarah. That sentence has weight. On bad days, her golden child speech loops in my head like a jingle I cannot mute. On other days, the voice belongs to imposter syndrome, asking whether I earned my role or simply arrived after someone else flamed out. That mental noise is exactly why I refuse to make professional decisions by nostalgia or guilt. I keep asking the same neutral question I would apply to any candidate. If a stranger with Sarah's track record and Tom's chaos sat across from me in an interview, would I hire them? The answer is no. Not because they are family, because they are not qualified. Governance cannot become theater just because the last names match. So yes, here is the uncomfortable question you are probably already thinking. Am I the jerk for refusing to hire my ex-fiancé who eloped with my stepsister now that they are struggling? Or is this the first time I have chosen accountability over optics? Update 1. I did what I always do when I am stuck between principle and pity. I asked my parents. The internet predictably split right down the middle. Half of you said turning them away was the only sane option. The other half said I had been favored since childhood, and that favor is the reason Sarah unraveled. My parents cut through the noise with the kind of bluntness you either hate or secretly crave. For years, they said the entire family built on-ramps for Sarah tutors, therapists, inpatient programs, outpatient programs, fresh starts in new cities, and more second chances than most people see in a lifetime. She did not take them. My father admitted something I had only sensed. He had fully intended to let Sarah run the company if she ever showed sustained readiness. Instead, she torched bridges with a smile, mocked the people trying to set basic rules, and turned our last name into kindling whenever the room needed heat. After that, he said handing her the keys to anything business or personal would not be love. It would be negligence. I did not leave that conversation smug. I left steadier, less guilty for drawing a boundary that should have been a foundation, not a fence. Update 2. About 2 weeks after Sarah appeared at my doorstep, she stormed my office. She knows the building from childhood tours and holiday parties, and she used that familiarity like a key. She slipped past the lobby before anyone clocked her. She parked herself outside my door and started shouting. According to her, I stole the company by playing the obedient daughter. I had, she claimed, smeared her as a bully and manipulated our father into sending her to rehab to cement my status. She declared the business rightfully hers and accused me of freezing her out because I could not stand that Tom chose her. I did the only thing that keeps days like that from turning into circus acts. I called security first. Then I stepped out and in as few words as possible told her to stop. She did not. Security escorted her out of the building. She lingered on the sidewalk, pacing like she was deciding between a tantrum and a headline. I called my father, then the police. Officers found her nearby and charged her with trespassing and disturbing the peace. Minor counts, yes, likely a fine or community service, but still a record. When I told my father, he was not angry. He was exhausted. He said he wanted a break from the constant crisis management. I cannot blame him. We have all been holding our breath for years. Update 3. A few days later, she disappeared again. My father heard from someone who heard from someone that she had been seen heading toward the airport, which usually means New York. I am relieved. I had been bracing for another attention grab, something risky enough to force our eyes back on her. I do not know what comes next for Tom. After this, help will be scarce. And I will not pretend my motives are noble. I want them to land on their feet because I do not want them landing back on my doorstep. If either of them finds steady work, everyone wins. They get dignity and we get quiet. For now, I am grateful for the pause. Here is where I have landed cleanly and without dramatics. Feeling sorry for Sarah does not obligate me to hire her, fund her, or retrofit history so that consequences look like cruelty. I can acknowledge the weight of my father's decision to send her away and still accept that he acted to protect the family, and yes, to protect her from herself. I can admit I spoke too sharply when she asked for help, and still declined to fix what she and Tom keep breaking. Two truths can stand next to each other without canceling out. I am not carrying a vendetta. I am carrying standards. If Sarah does the work, sustained sobriety, steady employment, actual restitution to people she has harmed, not curated postcards and public scenes, then the conversation will change. Not overnight. Not because a single teary message appears at 2 a.m. Through time, through choices, through the boring things that rebuild trust grain by grain. Until then, the answer holds. I will not hire her. I will not underwrite Tom. I will keep my door locked and my heart unhard. I will choose consistency over chaos every time. There is one more piece I need to say out loud because it keeps me honest when the old tapes play. The company may have been intended for Sarah once, but intention is not entitlement. I earned my seat the long way. Late nights, early mornings, clean books, clean audits, a team that would follow me into a storm and out the other side. I will not surrender that to prove I am kind. Kindness that requires amnesia is not kindness. It is denial wearing perfume. So no, I do not believe I am the jerk for refusing to hire my ex-fiancé who eloped with my stepsister. I believe I am finally telling the truth to them, to my parents, and to myself. I can want better for Sarah and still decline to be her safety net. I can wish Tom luck and still refuse to buy him rope. And if you are listening because you have your own Sarah and your own Tom and your own aching unfinished story, hear me say this plainly. You are allowed to be generous without being used. You are allowed to be compassionate without becoming collateral. You are allowed to let the past inform you without letting it run you. If ever there is a day when Sarah shows up, not with demands, but with documentation, months of receipts that look like change rather than theater, I will meet that day on its own terms. Until then, I will keep my boundaries, keep my peace, and keep reminding myself that love without accountability is just silence with nicer packaging. The next few weeks were quiet in the way you only notice after years of sirens. No midnight calls, no surprise knocks, no off-the-record favors. Work moved forward like a well-oiled machine. We closed a quarter in the black, shipped on time, and finished audits without a single note. I slept through the night, which felt like luxury. About 6 weeks after the office incident, a certified letter arrived with Sarah's neat, careful handwriting on the envelope. It was not a postcard. It was a packet. Inside were copies of things that are hard to fake for long meeting logs from a recovery program, pay stubs from a diner in Queens, a letter from a supervisor who wrote that Sarah showed up early, stayed late, and never once asked to cut corners. There was also a handwritten apology, no blame shifting, no revisionist history, not a single sentence about what I owed her. She wrote that she had been reckless and cruel, that she had treated family like a safety net while sawing through its cords, and that she understood why I would never hire her or lend her money. She was not asking for a job. She was asking for a short meeting at a neutral place with a third person present, if I preferred, so she could apologize face to face and then let me go. I sat with that for 3 days. I showed it to counsel and to my therapist, then to my parents in that order. Everyone said the same thing in different words. You do not owe this meeting. If you choose it for your peace, not to fix her. I agreed to 15 minutes in a glass-walled conference room on a different floor from my team, with our head of HR present as a neutral witness. I set the rules in writing. No raised voices, no ask for a job or money, no one last thing at the door. We keep it brief, then we keep our lives. Sarah walked in with a quiet I did not recognize. No makeup to perform confidence, no grand entrance. She wore a diner uniform and carried nothing but her wallet and a folded piece of paper. She sat, looked me in the eye, and apologized. Not for outcomes, but for choices. She said she had been furious that our father sent her away, and she had turned that fury into a hobby. She said she used me as a villain because it was easier than looking in a mirror. She said she hated that Tom hurt me and that she chose him anyway because chaos felt like home. Then she did something I did not see coming. She apologized to HR for the scene at my office. She said she understood if she was flagged for restricted access going forward. She asked if they wanted a written statement for their incident file. Our HR lead thanked her and said the record was complete. I asked one question. What do you want from me now? She said a chance to tell you I am changing and that I am not going to make you responsible for any part of that change. I wanted you to hear it from me so you do not have to keep waiting for the other shoe to drop. That was it. No bargaining, no pitch, no test. She stood, thanked me for the time, and left. 15 minutes door to door. I walked back to my office and sat very still. I did not feel triumphant. I did not feel tricked. I felt finished. Not the kind of finished that slams a door, but the kind that finally shuts a window you forgot was open and notices the room is warmer. 2 months later, my father retired properly with a clean handoff and an outside celebration that felt earned. He gave a short speech that surprised me. He said stewardship means building something that does not depend on your last name. He thanked the people who had kept the company honest when he did not have the courage to do it alone. Then he sat down. No grand declarations, no hidden daggers. My mother, freed from the daily weather reports of a man who needed the room to bend, joined a volunteer group and started a small book club that meets on Thursday nights. She laughs more easily now the way she did when I was small, and she still remembered songs without looking up the lyrics. Tom became a rumor in other people's stories. Odd jobs, a short stint with a contractor, then a move to a different borough. I did not chase details. My life is not a newsroom and his choices are not my beat. I kept my boundaries and made one more decision at work that closed a loop. We formalized a simple firm policy: no family hires and no romantic partners on payroll, not at my level, not at any level. Conflicts of interest must be declared in writing and managed publicly, not whispered about in hallways. We expanded the Employee Assistance Program with real resources for addiction legal counseling and financial coaching, because the only thing worse than pretending problems do not exist is pretending people cannot change if they want to. On a quiet Sunday, nearly a year after the office incident, another letter arrived. Short this time. A single page from Sarah, dated and signed. She enclosed a copy of a lease with her name on it and a note from the recovery sponsor I recognized from the first packet. She said she had reached 1 year sober, that she had paid off 2 small debts, and that she was applying for community college in the fall. She closed with a line that felt like it belonged to both of us. Please keep your boundaries. I am keeping mine. I wrote back 2 sentences. I am glad you are doing the work. I wish you well from a distance. That is all the reconciliation I needed. Not a holiday photo, not a ribbon cutting, just 2 adults acknowledging their lanes and choosing not to drift. The business thrived. We invested in people who run toward responsibility instead of away from it. We published a case study on crisis governance that did not name names, only mistakes and corrections. It has been assigned reading for new managers ever since. On the anniversary of my start date as CEO, I walked the floor with coffee and listened more than I spoke. I stopped in the lobby on my way out and watched the doors for a moment. They opened and closed the way doors do when you stop expecting drama. I realized that for the first time in a long time, my story did not need an audience to stay true. Here is where I end, not because the world is neat now, but because my part of this story is complete. I will not hire Sarah. I will not fund Tom. I will not rewrite history to make any of us look kinder than we were. I will hold a line and hold my peace. If Sarah keeps doing the work for 5 years, for 10 years, for as long as it takes to build a life that holds under ordinary weather, then I hope she forgets to send postcards because she is too busy living. I used to think closure was something other people handed you. Now I know it is something you write yourself in the plain language of policies and choices, with dates in the margin and signatures at the bottom. So no, I am not the jerk for refusing to hire my ex-fiancé who eloped with my stepsister. I am a person who learned that compassion without accountability is just chaos in nicer clothes. I am a person who can feel a flicker of sympathy and still say no. And I am a person who finally sleeps without waiting for a knock. That is the end. Not the end of them, the end of me trying to save them at the expense of myself.